While okay, sorry. While we get started, if people want to once again introduce themselves and tell me how they're feeling. So, once again, and you can put it in the chat, and you feel free if you want to unmic and speak. But, once to remind everyone, I'm Phoebe. I oversee the Career and College program at Riverdale Neighborhood House, a small nonprofit in the Northwest Bronx. We serve young adults in job services, career services, and college access. And today I'm feeling optimistic but tired. It's a weird combination, but still optimistic. So why don't we take a minute to people to put their names, you know just to say my preferred pronouns: she, her, hers. If you want to put yours out there as well, and tell me how you're feeling. And
I can
just
go,
to know,
Phoebe.
yeah, I was gonna say, just to know, I also ask random people too if I don't see people now putting things in the chat. So if you don't want to be called randomly, go ahead and drop it as well.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Tutu. We've been together for 11 weeks now, so hopefully you all know who I am. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Green Market Youth Education Coordinator, and so I run a lot of youth programming in the market. I am very excited, and I have show and tell. I don't know if you guys can see. I got lots of fruit today, and so I'm really excited about that. That's how I'm feeling today. And I will voice, oh, hey, Medina. Medina saying hello. Her pronouns are she, her, and she's feeling pretty good.
Welcome, Medina. So if you just popped in, we are just quietly or on the mic or on the chat introducing ourselves and telling us how we feel today. Are we feeling pretty good or great or tired or angry or sleepy? How are we feeling? And everyone should quickly put it in, or I might randomly ask somebody just to check in.
Hello, my name is Afir. My pronouns is he, him, and I'm feeling a little exhausted. Just came back from school.
Great, thank you, Afir, and appreciate it. We got I Feel Good from Fatimata. So multiple different emotions. Oh, someone feels sore. Yes. Hopefully we relax, we stretch. Okay, relax, good. Did you tell us how you're feeling? Great, just dropped in. Optimistic, but also tired. Okay, we get it. Sometimes the camera is a little off. If, as you see, we all have our cameras on. If you want to put your cameras on, great. If not, I just ask that you're an active participant, because this is more for you. And that the next part is all about how you could really put what you do at the market on your resume. So this one is essentially your participation. But thank you so far for those who participated. For those who are still coming in, feel free to put their feelings, but we're going to get started. So I'm going to share my link. All right, so everyone should be seeing components of a successful resume right now. Perfect. So last meeting, just to recap, we talked about the startup of a resume, the beginning part of a resume. So we looked at the contact information, we looked at the professional summary, and we looked at the layout. So just to remind you, we talked about, how do we contact each other? That's super important for a resume, having a correct email, a phone number that works. And we also talked about the professional summary, which is the branded message we see featuring professional skills, accomplishments, as well as the reason for writing the resume. So an example, just to remind you, we have honor roll student with an aptitude for customer service, has experience in working for retailers such as Old Navy and Gap, experience using a variety of point of sale systems, and a price checker, eager to develop management skills. So that's a nice example of a professional summary. Sometimes we tell people we're looking for full-time work. Sometimes we're telling people that we're looking for part-time. Was everyone able to complete a professional summary so far in their resume? Anyone able to everyone able to actually put something together, or we're still struggling with that before we move on? How about thumbs up if you were able to do your professional summary? Alrighty. So we're gonna continue, and hopefully if you haven't done your professional summary, please put that out there. Use this link. I think we shared my PowerPoint to get started, but we're gonna move on now to the second component of the resume, which is the most, we're gonna talk about first education history. I think we talked about that briefly, but I'm just going to remind everyone that when it comes to your resume, you have to put your education history. So people from the earliest to the oldest, they put what education background they have. And that really includes the school information, anticipated or completed degrees. So if you're a high school graduate, you put that you went to, like, for example, I went to Aquinas High School, and then I would put that I have an advanced Regents diploma, a New York State Regents diploma, or if you just have a New York State Regents diploma. Some people have GED programs, they will put that as well. Any kind of educational background you put. Then if you're in college, you should put that I went to Manhattan College. You should put currently in Manhattan College. If you want to put your major, you can go ahead and put your major. Yes, please. If you have questions, drop it in the chat or stop me anytime and I'll answer. And in education, I'll show you an example. You also could put your related coursework as well, meaning that if you're taking an environmental class and you feel like it connects to your job and you want to showcase that you're taking an environmental science class and you're applying for a group leader position in environmental studies, it's a perfect connection. So you'll put any related coursework in that part as well. But what we're really going to look at is employment history. This is the bulk of the first half of the workshop. And then the second half, we're going to talk about cover letters very briefly. But we are also going to talk about employment history. If you remember, I'm going to show the template that I use. We have to talk about what is it that we actually have done before, what we're currently doing. So employment history is just to remind everyone, it's always in reverse chronological order. So most recent job first, and then you have your past jobs. And it really talks about what is it that I have done so far that is professionally I could share with a potential employer. And it includes dates you work with the employer, a job title, and description points. And then you have additional skills, which we'll talk about, computer technical. But let's get more into your job description. Whenever you do employment part, and I'm going to show you an example. I'm going to just stop share so I could show you an example of a resume so far. So remember John Smith, he had corrected his resume. He has right here experience, and he wrote cashier. He's summer youth employment at Burger King from 2010 to August 2010. So this is an example of experience. Just briefly, this is an example of education, but he also lists these things right here. So manage, cashier, greeted customers. We're going to talk about that bulk, which is what we call accomplishment statements or description statements. Just to look at briefly, we'll go back to this person's resume. This is actually my intern. We worked on the resume and she completed, my year-long interns have to complete a resume at the end of their internship. So this is one of my students' resume, and she was a media intern in the fall of 2020. She finished officially in June 2021. So she writes about collaborated with team members to compose monthly articles, worked independently to create content, research youth topics. So we're going to look at that. And then you see her past job was she was a summer camp counselor in summer 2019. So just to kind of give you these examples before we get into breaking down the description points as well. And then briefly, I'm also going to show you my other intern who had to complete her resume with me. So she also was a media intern, and that was her present job. And she likes to put a quick mini description of the place she works at. We'll look at it one more time. Like she says, Riverdale Neighbor House develops and plans and executes college and career internships to support high school. She gives a brief description, and then she gave 2 points of what she does. Same thing for this other internship she was in as well. So there's multiple ways you could do different employment history. I just wanted to share an example before we get more into details. Yeah, go ahead, Tutu.
Thank you, Phoebe. I just wanted to point out that everyone on here should have a resume because you needed one in order to apply for this job. But also there are 4 folks who have handed in resumes to me. So while Phoebe is going through all of this, I think it would be really important if you're able to pull up your resume and have that on hand while she's talking so that you can make adjustments to those. And there are some folks who have some really great summaries. So please don't be too shy to share because this is actually really helpful for you.
Yeah, I would go about that and also just encourage you to ask questions. This is for you. Take advantage of this resume workshop. It can get you a long way. And then also taking advantage later on from us reviewing those resumes. So please ask questions as we go along.
Yeah, this Perla and Khadijah, if you see their resume, they're high school students, you know, and this is Perla's resume, and it's because she implemented the workshop and was able to really put it together. So as she asked questions, that's why I used these two, and they were able to create a resume that worked for them. And so but don't hesitate to share with me, and that's why we're going to go more into the description part, because that's the most important part of a resume, the description of what you did. And then we'll talk about why it matters. So I'm going to go back to, also I wanted to share briefly, if you still have this, I'm going to share a link. I'm going to ask people to, let's make sure, to make a copy if they want. Put it in the chat. So I just shared a link of a working document. You go to file, I'm going to ask you file and make a copy. That's what I'm going to ask you to do if you want to. And you could work off this if you want to start new. So if you don't have your resume with you, but you want to start incorporating some things that you heard, you know, please use this link to start working. So go once again, file, and you want to make a copy, because if not, you're going to just be working alongside me. But this is the start of how you will do your work history. So once again, file and make a copy. I'm going to stop shift and then switch over to, any questions so far? All right, so let's get back to accomplishments, not statements. So a lot of times when people do their job description in a resume, they could be very basic. For example, let's say you work with of children in an after school setting. Sometimes they could be like, I work with kids ages 9 to 12, or I complete homework help. And that what they realize is that they're not actually explaining their responsibilities. So one thing I like to say about job description, it is accomplishments, not statements, meaning you're not just telling us, I work in this store or I fold clothes. You're actually talking about your accomplishment at your job. And a lot of times people get that confused on their resume. They spend more time talking about the physical stuff that they do and not actually what they accomplish at their job. So when you think about your job description, you want to think about list your responsibilities or / accomplishments. So you want to think action and result. Like what action did you do and what result? So if you oversee children, what was the result? You provided a safe environment while you taught them basic social skills. If you work in the market, okay, you sold produce, but what is the result of that? Did you provide a healthy choice for your community? Did you provide support in, in your neighborhood? Did you provide customer service? Like, what are the results of the things that you do? So if you have your resume with you, quickly look at it and ask yourself, was it a statement or was it an accomplishment? Was it just, I work at the market selling produce? If that's something, or I sell produce, or I practice customer service, these are all statements, but they don't have an action and they don't definitely have a result. So just take a minute to see, is my resume a statement or accomplishment? Another thing people do in a resume is that they don't get to the point. They will say things like, I helped with packing groceries. I helped with putting stock in. Sometimes you could be very repetitive and you lose your focus, or you could just be, you could make a resume long for no reason. Sometimes you have to put everything together. I was responsible for stocking and bagging groceries and supporting people, and helping out with the customer service. You got to put everything together just so it could be make sense. Also show that you actually did a lot in your job, even if it's simple. And then I like to ask this question, like, what did you accomplish at your job? So this is before we move on to examples. If you guys could briefly maybe tell me in the chat, so far as working for Grow NYC, what did you accomplish? So that's a good start of how do you start thinking about what do you put on your resume. So if I'm going to give people a second or minutes, could tell me what did they accomplish at Grow NYC? And I didn't ask this in the beginning. This is why we teach this now, so that you could spend time with your manager, spend time with staff to hear more about what is it that I do at the market. And remember, I randomly call on people if no one participates. So if you don't want to be randomly called, feel free to put in the chat, what did you accomplish at your site? Okay, you learned about produce. That's super important. I think it was Grow NYC that really taught me about different squash and different, local fruits and vegetables. Yes, and you were able to provide fresh produce to the community. Thank you. What else? What is some things you learned? Thank you guys. So my ability to multitask, that is a great task. Customer service skills improve, knowledge of produce. That's 3 things you could talk about in your resume. Communicating with people, learning to understand them as well. A big form of working with people, you will learn customer service provides you to be a better communicator and be able to have a better social skills. Improving your mental math skills. So that's super important as well. You can engage and be able to understand things on the spot, make you, a fast learner. Learn how to distinguish between items and how to explain things to customers. Great. learn how to communicate through retail, how to be more confident. So these are things that you're like, yes, I'm able to accomplish. Now you have to see, well, how do I change what I just said into a description? And you might say, well, how do I put confidence into a description? Because a lot of times you think you have to say something concrete, but it could just be like, I was able to build up, due to my customer service and engagement with retailers and local producers, I was able to build up my confidence and social skills. You could talk about all that partnership while talking about your confidence. Create a positive, informative environment to customers curious about products sold. That's super important, is that learning how to speak about products, learning about the history. I think that's something that my interns, when you finish the market, they're like, wow, I'm able to talk about healthy foods to my local neighborhood and help them with their health, to help build their healthy lifestyle. That's something that's super important to write about. Great. Thank you. So let's just make it a bit more clear. I'm going to give you an example. So this is let me just see. Oh yeah, we'll come to that, the recommended number. It really depends, but I would say no more than 4, but 2, if you have 2 good ones, it depends on how, how much space you have on your resume. But this statement, this is a statement, and then we're going to turn it into an accomplishment. So this statement was, it should be, when I was a receptionist, I was in charge of answering the phone. I would decide who was the best person for the person calling to talk to about what they're calling about. We leave it to be as confusing because oftentimes we're very literal on our resume. Like, I answered phones, I decide who was the best person for the person calling to talk to, what they were calling about. And sometimes these things could be confusing. I put that there to show you an example that when you're very literal about, I answered the phones, or I sold produce, or I talked to customers, you forget that it doesn't really leave any kind of description for the person reading. So what we changed it to, we used the action and results, and we used the get to the point, and this is what we got. Receptionists answered phones and directed calls appropriately to ensure effective communication at our site. So the action was the answering of the phones, directing calls, and the results was effective communication at our site. So this is what you need to do, the action and the results, and that's how we're going to make sense. So this is how we took a confusing pile of, this is what I think I do, into a very concrete, responsible, very concrete depiction of your responsibilities. Now, here's a challenge. I'm going to give you guys an option to help me with this one. This one says, my junior year, I was elected to be the class representative of the student councilor, where I helped with planning the year's activity and was in charge of reporting back at class meetings. I don't have an answer for this one. So I want you guys to take a minute to see whoever, I'll give props to have whoever could simplify the statement and make it an accomplishment. What was this person's action and what was the result? So let's see. And if you feel like this is too hard, I'm going to give you another one. Oh, well, this is the answer. So we'll come back to it. So a minute of, 2 minutes, it's a little harder, of a statement. And how would you reduce that statement into an accomplishment or an action and a result? Let's see who's up for this challenge. In the meantime, if others have questions about the statement, feel free to put in the chat to go back to number of bullet points it depends on your task. Some jobs are very simple. Some jobs require a lot more explanation into what you do. And other times you may have other responsibilities you want to talk about. Yeah, if you want to say it instead of write it, go ahead. But drop your answer. How would you simplify the statement? All right, so I'm gonna ask someone to help problem solve with me now while we wait. Let's see. Tanzila, what about you? How would you problem solve this? From saying your name right.
Like to simplify it and like
Mhm.
okay, I wrote observed and listened to student body to plan activities.
Oh, say it one more time, sorry.
Observed and listened to student body to plan activities.
Okay. And observe and listen to student body to plan activities. Good. That shows that you were active, you wanted to plan activities. Thank you. Let's see. Let me ask a few more people. How about Fatumata?
I'm not too sure for this one, but I would say gaining leadership skills and independence for planning.
I think you have the results part down, but you also want to describe what you do. So I completely agree. You gain leadership and planning skills, and you miss maybe the plan activities in the student council to gain leadership and planning skills. So just don't forget to add your description, but thank you. That's a good end result piece as well. So that's a good example of result. Finally, I think it was Athir, if you could go. Oh, we have one in the chat as well. As a class rep of the student council, I help plan activities during my junior year. Great, thank you. Tihutu, and so let me show you an example of what we have. I also wrote as student council class representative. You don't have to put that in. It could just be as your title, but assisted in year planning yearly activities and creating reports to inform my class of the latest information from the council. So my action was the assistant. Some of you guys had great ones about learning about leadership skills as an end result. You could add that to it. And then create reports and latest information. I fully understand that state accomplishment parts of your job is not the easiest component, but it's the one that most employers and Corey and Tutu could back me up, is what they look at. They look and see what is it that you accomplished or what are your responsibilities. So you want to spend time in that section as well. So to go back to some of my students' resume. And if you have your resume, and then we'll talk about Grow NYC, while I'm showcasing examples from my students' resume, I'm gonna ask if you have description points from your resume working Grow NYC, put it in the chat. So let's see what you have, and I could see if that's a great accomplishment statement or not. And yes, it could be nerve-wracking to put out there, like, I wrote this. There's no right or wrong answer. No one is judging you on your statements. We just want to see if it's the best answer, and most likely it may be. So while I'm showing you examples of what my students did, remember they were not through Grow NYC. It'll be great if you put out some of what are some things you wrote on your resume, or what would you put if you had to write about Grow NYC in your resume. So back to Khadijah, just to show you an example of her complete resume. She has her professional statement, 2 years of work experience in the field of, she's interested in the field of customer service, teamwork, communication management. She had put her education. She is goes to the Bronx School of Law and Government, and she actually just graduated. She is in Baruch right now. So she's in college freshman year. She has 2 work experience, the media. So she collaborated with team player members to compose monthly articles for teens. Her action was her collaboration. Her results was she composed monthly articles. She worked independently to create content for social media. So that was an example that she was an independent worker while creating content. And she researched youth-related topics for media use. So instantly, you know, she was a collaborator. She worked independently, and she researched topics for the youth as well. In her job that she did before she started internship, she was in the Summer Youth Employment Program. And this is an example. If you're in programs like AmeriCorps or Summer Youth or internships, you always want to name the internship first, like Summer Youth Employment or AmeriCorps, then you name your title. You just don't want to say summer camp counselor at a site. You want to tell them you were part of an internship. That helps to explain why it was only a summer, you know. So that's just a tip. Like, if you were in part of any special program, you got to list that out. She organized and guided group activities for children ages 2 to 7, prepared and served food for children as well. Great. I see people. Just a reminder, put your accomplished statements out while I'm going over examples of resumes of what you have. What would you say you do at Grow NYC while I'm talking? So thank you for the first one. And now everyone else put it out. She also put volunteer experience. If you have only had one job, but you volunteer, you're active, you do other things, put that on as well. So Khadijah was actually part of Build On through her school. And so she put it as a work experience. So volunteer experience is similar to work. You just have to make note that it's a volunteer and it's not a paid work experience. But she's put the date and time, implement customer service skills, greeted and served meals, worked in World Vision to stock and organize school supplies, activities and skills. Very straightforward. This is a high school resume. Now she's in college, but it filled up one full page, if you remember, and she has all her information I think she wants to put out to a potential employer. Same thing for Perla. Perla is a very active student, so her resume is a little bit more full, but at the same time, she's able to, it's a different design as well. So Perla put education. She put her GPA this time because it's a high GPA. Here's another tip. If your GPA is not high, do not put it on your resume. You know, it is not mandatory. I remember a student said, I thought it was mandatory. I had to put my GPA on my resume. You don't. Only if it's really good. So it has a good GPA is 90 plus. I was an 80s in the 80s kid, but a good really GPA is put in like 90 plus. She put her related coursework. So she wanted to so Perla is going to school for fashion. So she wanted to show people that she loved art and design. And she also put her extracurricular activities. She was a musical theater club. She's in National Honor Society, and she had she's in the honor program as well. I told you about her trick she does. I thought that was really clever. She did a one sentence to talk about every job she was a part of. So she just gave a one sentence description. I think that's really, detail oriented, and it looks really good. So please steal this idea. Like, a lot of times people don't know what Grow NYC is. So it'd be great if you put a one sentence about what they are, what they do. And she talked about her remember, they're in the same internship, but look how different their description is. Create, edit, and publish articles to support teens in their social and mental emotional growth. She really took the action result part from what we taught. Moderator of social media platform, Instagram of the organization to promote achievement, news, and education resources for teens. Same internship, different descriptions, all equally good. Other internships she was in the local civics career prep program. Once again, she named the program and then the site. She was a youth change maker, and she talked about the place. She talked about her accomplishment, presented a pitch in the front of 80 plus students. So she put statistics out there as well, and completed 4+ years of post-secondary milestones. And just to give you some fun facts, none of these students had resumes before, but they just kind of followed through. We worked on it, and they were able to really produce something really well. She did academic conferences, extracurricular activities. She went more into detail because she didn't have volunteer work. She had more extracurricular, like she put church choir. That's something she's passionate about. So she put that on her resume. She has community service right here as a tutor and technology assistant. And then she has her additional information. Another example of someone who it's not like she's been around doing, I think her latest thing is like 2017, her earliest thing is 2017, but she had a lot to say. Any questions so far about these resumes before we get into the Grow NYC segment? Okay, so to be mindful, because we still want to do cover letters, let's just jump into what some people wrote. And thank you for the 2 people to put that out there. Hopefully you work with, your managers to work on your description, because that's super important. So assisted operation of farm stand business, learn regional agriculture, environment, nutrition, workshops and resumes, program continues senior year. I thought that was really good. I'm a little confused about program continue senior year, but everything else was really spot on. Oh, I don't know if you say, yeah, go ahead.
I would also note, think about dates, the starting dates and ending dates. So if you're still currently working at a job, you would put, I think, the time when you started and then put present instead of ending date. So you would put July 2021 and then /present. And then once the program actually ends, then you would put the end date.
Yeah, either current or present. Great.
Yeah.
And then, yes, good. Angelica would use knowledge of, and another thing is if you're currently in a job, you have to use present tense. So that's something to, I'm going to give you guys the fact sheet. I'm going to have it to share it, but you want to use present tense when you're in your current job. but use knowledge of food to assist and inform customers at Grow NYC Farm Stand, as well as created a clean, resourceful environment within the market. Great statement. I would just, all you have to do is just convert it into present tense, and that's a great statement. Yeah, so thank you. That was 2 great statements that you could put on your resume, accomplishment statements. For those who probably have nothing, let's be honest, resumes take time. You know, don't hesitate to come and ask questions like, what do I do? Sometimes you don't realize you do a lot of things. You might be thinking, all I did was just sell produce. But now you said you know about the knowledge, you know how to talk to customers. So it's important to ask yourself, what is it that I do and how do I put that on paper? That's super important as well. Any questions before I wrap up?
Just had a suggestion. I'm going to look it up, but one thing that you can also do if you need reminding or just a tip, you can look at the job description for whatever job that you are hired for. That can be like a good indicator of the different activities that you did, and then match those with like what Phoebe's talking about, like what the action was and what your results were. So if you're struggling, you can look up the job description. Let me see if I can find it while we're talking.
Yeah, and I also, one other way of thinking about your experience at this position is thinking about 3 columns, and I would put it in, 1 column is operational column. So you focus on, think about what you do in terms of like when you arrive at the market. So physical things like setting up the markets, making it look pretty, putting the stuff on the table. And then the second column is sort of promotion of the market. So that's communication, that's talking about where the produce is coming from, talking about who the farmers are. And then your last column is the educational component, where you learn about the regional agriculture and then participate at the workshops. So that might give you a guide in how to think about the bullet points that you want to write on a resume.
And hint, Corey pretty much just told you what you could put on your resume. And I'm sure you didn't remember, oh, I promoted stuff. You know, it's hard to remember what you do, but, you know, when you listen to the recording, I would go back and say, what did she say? Operational, promote, you know, these are things that could be super important for your resume. So, you know, don't hesitate to talk and ask questions like, how would I describe what I just did with flyering? You know, that's, you know, promotion.
Yeah.
How did I describe my customer service? You know, that's knowing about your background, the knowledge of Grow NYC produce, you know, don't hesitate to ask questions.
Yeah, I would again encourage you to bug us as much as you can while you have time, because you know, as Phoebe mentioned, resume is something that you'll be working on, you know, while you work, you know, and that's a big chunk of your life. And you know, having a good start is gonna get you up, you know, far. So, you know, feel free to email us or you know, whatever, text or call to ask questions. We're here to help you out with this and to, you know, give you a good start.
Right. So just to wrap up, I'm gonna just go over some components of a resume. So just to wrap, I just want to go over some important components of a resume. Let me just share the document. Yeah. Okay, there it is. I don't know if we'll have time for the cover letter, but I'll send the presentation to Corey just in case you still need help with cover letters. But just to wrap up, here are some things that you should look at. So I'm going to also give this document out that pretty much talked about what we, you know, had everything we said in the presentation. But one things I like is that I have this thing called a resume checklist, that after you finish your resume, you should go for this checklist. I'm not going to go over every statement, but I'm just going to talk about like highlighted ones. So the first thing is your spelling mistakes. Yes, when you finish your resume, you should look over to see, is there any spelling mistakes? Sometimes the computer does not pick up everything. So a good example is if you wrote from instead of form, your computer is not going to pick it up because technically that was not a spelling mistake. So you yourself have to check it, or have a friend or two proofread your resume. Sometimes you don't notice you have a mistake, and it's great if a friend could proofread the resume as well. Another one is punctuational mistakes. A lot of times we don't think about it, but you want to be consistent. If you're going to put a period at the end of a sentence, and then the next sentence doesn't have a period, or the next sentence has one, it seems like, oh, this is not a big deal. But a lot of times people use any excuse to throw your resume away. And one of the important things you want to do, you want to be consistent. So you want to make sure if you don't use period, you don't use period. If you use a period, you use a period. Make sure your commas are not all over the place, and make sure you're not using exclamation points. Avoid using that. Your resume never should be a example to talk about your personality. That's an interview. Your resume is just talking about what is it that you accomplished in your current or past jobs. What is it that you're looking forward to do, and what are some skills that you have? If you're trying to showcase that I'm really great with kids, that's where your interview will come to play. So avoid using the exclamation points. It does not really translate on paper. It's a little confusing. Punctuation spelling is different from grammatical mistakes. Oftentimes we think they're all in the same, but they're all different. Do not switch tenses. That's super important. If you're writing about past is past tense. Current is present tense. Do not just write from wrote reports and then go to I write reports. You want to use present tense, write, and then for past jobs, wrote. Simple rule, follow it and it'll be helpful. Another one is be consistent with your date formats. So it seems another thing is like, why does this matter? But it could also look chaotic on your resume if you went from this form 11-22-13, then you turned around and wrote out your date November 22, 2013, or then you did something like 11.20. It kind of shows that you're gonna put different things. You kind of just mishmash your different situations in your resume. Yes, that's a perfect way. It shows that you paid attention to detail. And often people want to see that your resume is not generic, or it's just not a cut and paste. They want to see that you took your time to actually complete your resume. Finally, choose your words carefully. I know it could be very confusing. Accept to receive, accept to exclude, all right, correct, all right. That's not a word. That's all right with one letter. We have to be careful between text talk and, professional talk. It makes sense to put, to simplify words. Like, for example, I work at Riverdale Neighborhood House. We don't always say Riverdale Neighborhood House. We say RNH. However, when I'm sending out my resume, I can't put RNH because they don't know what RNH is. I have to write out Riverdale Neighborhood House. So just make sure you use your words carefully. Effect is to bring about change. Effect is a result. So just be mindful. Personal is private. Personnel is staff members. So I know sometimes words could be confusing. Check it, look it up. No shame in looking up in words in the dictionary. I do that all the time. I'm like, is this the correct word for this sentence? Another one, a role is a character assigned to a function. Role as an ROLL is to revolve, so it's like, be mindful of what words you put in your resume. Other mistakes is check your address and phone numbers. Are they accurate and correct? So I actually have one student trying to get an internship. He's been emailing me, and his email, I don't realize it has a very inappropriate title. And I don't think he realizes that, because I know his family, and he's so formal in the email, and I'm not sure if he realizes there's such an inappropriate title in his email, because sometimes your name, when it comes to Gmail, connects with your email address. So be very careful about if you have signatures that is inappropriate with your buddies and you're thinking they're not going to, other people won't see it. So I have to now talk to him like, I need you to change that.
Yeah, and it's a really simple thing to check. I mean, I had a couple of resumes where, you know, I would send an invite for an interview and an email would bounce back because it wasn't correct. So you don't want to miss an opportunity because you didn't check your grammar or spelling or paid attention to details.
Yeah. Design is important. You know, I know people tell you it's all about what is said, not how it looks. They're setting you up, you know, it's aesthetics matter. If your resume looks cluttered all over the place or inconsistent, it's really hard for a recruiter or someone looking to hire you to really take you seriously. So even overcrowding your resume, you know, that could be very chaotic. So you want to keep to the number of fonts to the minimum. Having different fonts like Times New Roman, then Arial, that could be very distracting. So you want to keep to that 2 at most, or if 1 necessary. Not overusing capitalizations, italics, underlines, other things. So if you have capitalization, you want to then underline something, another form of distraction. So you want to make sure that your resume is very simple. You know, once again, do not have multiple different color resume, like a purple sheet for your resume, or not to have keep your resume to be at least 1 page and 2 the most, you know, 1 page, you know, 2 the most, 4 pages. You're really hoping that recruiter takes their time to read it. And that's really, you know, it for just, I'll give you this checklist. There's a lot more things to just kind of go down the line and see, did I follow through on this checklist? And finally, just to officially wrap up, I just want to end with why my resume got tossed. You know, and that's just the end. Like, I send my resume, why is it that no one's calling me back? Not doing a cover letter. I could share this resource if needed, and then if there's a demand, let me know. I could come back and do cover letters, but oftentimes some places does require both a resume and cover letter. Sometimes they don't. So double check if you are sending out your resume, if they're also requiring a cover letter as well. Making your resume attractive. Once again, crazy fonts, bright color papers. It actually looks unprofessional and desperate. You don't want to show people, you want to show people that I am present, I want this job, but you don't want to show them that you're desperate. Going long, you know, I'm going to be very frank, at our age, at your age, your resume should be 1 page, you know, unless you have been in multiple jobs and the jobs have been like Grow NYC, great, or after school programs or teaching, your resume should be 1 page. You have to, if you have like 7 jobs, you have to, out of the 7 jobs, pick maybe 2 or 3 that relates to the job you're applying for. So for example, if you're applying to be a teacher and you have 3 jobs that's related to education and 4 related to retail, you should focus on the jobs related to education. No matter your age, never go over 2 pages. You know, a lot of times people go, well, I'm highly accomplished, I should have a 6-page resume. But in reality, it's a lot of stuff that you didn't really need to put there in the first place. You can, if you're really going for that big CEO position, sure, maybe your resume can be more than 2 pages, but you really want to make sure people read it. Just as a reminder, focusing on the duties and not accomplishments. Remember, resume highlights your skills. If you're not going to talk about the action and the result, and you're just going to talk about where you are, I sold produce, you can lose your whole point. Estimating your dates and titles. I think Corey brought it briefly, but you want to make sure you are correct in your titles. Employers complete background checks, so be honest. You want to make sure that your title is correct. And if you don't know, it's completely fine to call past employers or talk to current employers to ask them, what is my official job title? And assume your spell check is good enough. Spell check does not pick up everything. That's the number one reason why young people resume one-sided, not double-sided. Double-sided means 2 pages. Good. But a number one reason why students don't get picked is that oftentimes there's a lot of spelling mistakes. And that's it. Any questions overall about resumes, anything you're still kind of stuck on, now is the time. But really, it really just takes time and dedication sitting down and really working on that resume. And I have in the PowerPoint I'm gonna share, we have Resume Builder, which is, you could actually go to sites and create the resume, use online sites to help create your resume. Be careful, some places wanna charge you $50 to $100 for a resume, other sites are free, so just be careful of that. But any questions, or if you're ready, if you feel like you're confident, thumbs up, that tells me. If not, ask a question. Not even a couple of words. So what happens is, if you have a full page and then you have like one sentence in the second page, that's another, why couldn't you just fit in on one page? So it doesn't make it look better if you have, not all, people feel like 2 pages looks like I'm more important. It's the meat, what is that? What are you actually saying? Good, I saw 1 or 2 thumbs up. What about the rest? Thumbs up if you know it. Good. Right, I see Jessica, I saw, good. Great.
Well, I'd love to see all those thumbs up. Can we follow those up with uploading your resume? I think Phoebe has done a really great job of just like laying down the foundation and giving us lots of clues on how we can write up a really great resume. So taking what Phoebe has said in this workshop and the workshop before, if you can upload your resume here and send us, this will be a first draft, and then we'll give you edits, and then there'll be a second chance for you to edit. And then our hope is for you to graduate or to complete this program with a resume that you can take on to your next job or to college. We want to make sure that we're giving you all the tools that we can while you're with us. So please, upload your resume, and we'll see if we can get
I
Phoebe
just
to
want to
take a
say,
look at it too.
other places don't do that. I want to put that out there, that most jobs, I could even estimate maybe 99% will not help you with next steps in your career life or professional life. And I feel like that's why you find a lot of people from all ages who struggle with their resume, because they don't get a lot of support. So I'm actually really appreciate Grow NYC, because I've been doing with them for many years, really supporting, young people or anyone to just really have a great resume, because they know the reality, you will not be with them forever. And some jobs know that, and they still like, oh, I'm not going to help you. But they know the reality that you won't be there with them forever, and they really want to help out. So do not waste this opportunity. Do not, speak up. Sometimes people feel like if I tell people I have no idea how to start, or I don't know what I'm doing, they'll judge me. But this is why they're here. This is why we're here. And I'll put my email. Feel free to, if you want me to look at your resume, go ahead. I'll give you some of my advice as well. Take these opportunities, because you never know.
Yeah, as long as you start, you're already on a good track. So, put aside an hour investing in starting your resume or working to editing what you already have, and we're happy to help you, give tips and feedback about what you're
what you already did.
I also want to shout out Andrew Fu, who isn't working with us, but he sent me his resume and we worked on it together, and he's in a really great place to get a new job. So I'm excited for him. So that could be you too. Please upload your resume so that we can help you get this. And we're also talking from experience. We constantly are updating our resumes. It's really helpful to have something started, like Corey said, instead of waiting for when you're looking for a job to get that started.
Yeah.
Or for when you're applying for colleges.
Yeah, so there's no questions. Thank you for those participating and those wanting to better their resume. Good luck, everyone. You know, I know it's not easy, but I agree. 1 hour could really help with your resume. So, you know, and anything you could email me if you have further questions, but thank you.
Thank you, Phoebe.
Thank you so much, Phoebe, for coming and sharing your wisdom with us. We really appreciate it. If there are no questions or comments, we can end. So I'm going to email you guys and send you the